So I'm here with...
Nathan Keeley.
Nice to meet you, Nathan.
Nice to meet you.
Whereabouts are you from originally?
I'm originally from Winnipeg, Manitoba.
How was your childhood in Winnipeg?
I had a good childhood, to be honest. The start of my life was a little bit more rough. My birth mom was an addict. She gave me and my sister up for adoption. We were maybe like 6 months old. I only moved a couple different foster homes when I was a baby, so I didn't really get too much into the social service care as my sister did. My sister was moved around a lot more than me, so she had a little bit more rough. But what happened is that we were in foster care. I was in a foster home by myself, and they used to bring my sister for visits. And she when she was supposed to leave, she could talk. I wasn't able to talk yet. I was like 3 years old. And she used to scream and cry and say, "Nathan, I want to stay with my brother. Please don't let me go with him. I want to be with him." Well, finally, they fucking kept her with me. They ended up moving her into the same foster home. So that's how me and my sister were adopted together. When I turned, I always had problems. I was an ADHD kid. I was really troubled. I used to freak out in school. I was always in detention. Yeah, I was a pretty troubled kid when I was growing up. I have FASD, fetal alcohol syndrome disorder. It can be a drag. I have a bad impulsive issues. I can be impulsive, and it also has affected my life currently. Reason why I'm on the streets as well. Yeah, my birth mom died when I was 11. I was adopted by a great family in Winnipeg. They're sober people. I ended up going to the lake every summer with them. I was brought up pretty good. I was on the Manitoba team for gymnastics. I grew up. I was competitive for over 9 years of my youth in gymnastics. I ended up going to all over Canada for competitions. I was second best in my division for many years. Went all the way to Brazil for competition. There was the junior nationals for all of North America. That ended up being my last competition. Ended up losing my scholarship. I had a scholarship to Yale University. I was sponsored by Sport Manitoba. They paid for my dad's mortgage. Yeah, I had a meal planner. I had a personal trainer. Yeah, I was really good at gymnastics. I also liked playing basketball, junior varsity hockey, basketball player growing up.
How did you lose the scholarship?
I ended up getting into a fight with my own teammate in Brazil. He actually came on to. I witnessed him coming on to a girl trying to force her in a bedroom, in a hotel room, and I punched him out, and I lost. Zero tolerance for violence in sport, Manitoba. So we were on TV that year. It was like airing on TV across the states. It wasn't in Canada, but it was across states and Mexico. They had it on airing. But once that happened, because it was being in the fight, they actually took all of my personal records. Everything was totally closed. They didn't have it anymore online. Nothing. I had no more videos online of me. They took everything off. They took my scholarship. They disbanded me from being in any gym across Canada. I can no longer be a gymnast in Manitoba. They kicked me out of Sport Manitoba. Yeah, and then I lost all my medals for that competition. They stripped me of my medals, and yeah, that was the end of my gymnastics career. After that, 6 months. After that, 6 months later, I ended up losing my childhood sweetheart in Winnipeg. We were together for like 2.5 years, 3 years. I was like 16 years old. I lost her, thank you, and appreciate it. And I lost her, and I ended up in group homes. Literally in less than 3 months later, I was kicked out of school and in group homes in Winnipeg in a rough area. So, hey, you gonna come back? Yo. Okay. And yeah, so I was freaking. Yeah, it was like, like top of the line athlete, getting scholarships and being trained by personal trainers from all over Canada, being scouted to nothing, to being in this rough neighborhood of Winnipeg. Immediately they brought me to it was like a stabilization unit for kids, a youth, like it was a shelter almost, but it was very private. They only brought you in quickly into this little building, and they just, I guess it was like a stabilization place. My parents put me in there. They knew I was losing control and falling apart. They couldn't take care of me anymore. I wasn't following rules. I wasn't going to school. I was missing school, getting into bad fights. So they put me in voluntary placement, which means the CFS, they agreed to CFS to take me into group homes due to my behavior. So I went through group homes from 16 till I was 18 years old, and group homes were, you know, it was a learning process. You know, you go around, you know, being a white boy in Winnipeg is a little bit different, right? Because in the group homes you're dealing with Native kids, and you know, they want to pick on the white guy, right? So I had to learn quickly how to. Luckily I was strong, so I was able to fight, and you learned your hierarchy in that group home real quick, man. You fought your way up to the top. Once you won the fights, you ran the group home, you know. So you get the top room in the house, and you get whatever comes your way is first dibs, you know. You get the first dibs on anything that comes in the house, groceries that they buy. You get your spending allowance. You can tell the other kids are buying stuff for you from theirs, you know, like you ran the house, right? You're the strongest kid. So yeah, I learned quickly how to fight, and yeah, and I also was part of I was somewhat involved in a couple street gangs in the city too. I rolled with Mad Cow for a little bit there. It's an immigrant street gang in Winnipeg, and I rolled with them and African Mafia for a bit, for about, it was like 2 summers or something like that.
How was that?
I was 16 years old, selling crack on fucking Yonge Street, downtown Winnipeg, in West Side. Fucking don't even know why. Don't do drugs, you know. Never touched crack, never touched coke at that point. Just knew that I could make it $20 every time I made that sale, right? So I did it, you know, and I ended up not wanting to be a part of that gang. They just wasn't for me. So I ended up saying no, I'm not interested, and walked away. As later on, about maybe a year later, I turned 18, and when you turn 18 in Winnipeg, through the group home system, you have a choice. You either find a place while you're in the group home system to go to when you turn 18, or you're on your own. They give you a bunch of money, and they give you like, it was like $1,200. You're on your own, figure it out. So they put me in a place in this apartment building right downtown, or right in the north side, like fucking trap house, really bad one actually. It's like, and I had my room set up. My parents bought me a bed, bought me food and stuff. There's just a little room inside this old house, and the group home just set this up. They bought the rental, and they put me in there. And yeah, first night, fucking, I didn't want to stay there, and I stayed at my parents' house the first night. Came back, and it was robbed, broken into. Everything was taken out. That whole place, they took everything out of there. My clothes, my hat, my food. They took my food out of that place. They switched my bed, my mattress out, and put a different mattress in there with like dirty, rugged mattress. Like my sheets were gone. They trashed the fucking house. And it was my apartment. Like they just went in there and broke it and took everything, you know. So my parents were like, "Hey, no, that's not gonna work. You know, you're 18 years old." So I lucked out. They brought me back into the house, and my dad took me in again. I think he just felt bad because he put me into group homes. You know, he felt like, you know, maybe give me a chance. Yeah, so I did a little bit of cocaine, ecstasy back then, just like any other kid, you know. I dabbled here and there, but I turned 18, and I was outside the group home doors. Like I said, I had to go back to my dad's, but I went back to the group home one day. I'm sitting outside the steps, and I just like realized, I got nothing, you know. I don't have no job. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm bawling my eyes out on the steps of this group home. And when I was in group homes, I used to shovel snow and stuff to make money. And my neighbor next to me knew that, and he witnessed that. He seen that I had drive, and I knew how to make money, and I tried, you know, even though I was in a group home and I had disadvantages that, you know, could have put me the wrong way. And I ended up offering me a job. He says, "Come over here, come take this call, Nate." You know, he was like, "What's going on?" I said, "I don't know, I got nothing, you know, I'm lost." You know, he's like, "No, come here, come answer this phone." He's like, "Hey, this guy's gonna be on the phone, and you could tell him you need a job." And he said, "Okay." So I pick up the phone, the guy's on. He's like, "Yeah, you looking to work?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, it's building fences," and You want to start on Friday? I'm like, sure, start on Friday. And he said, okay, so you have this job. If you finish this job this summer, I'll give you a real job. And so it's funny, I came to work that fucking Friday, and the first day I got there, some guy can cut almost all his fingers off on the skill saw or the table saw. Yeah, and they always say, and he taught me like right that day, it was to watch your fingers. You know, like that was one of those lessons you learn in the trades. Watch your fingers. Push with a board instead of using your fingers to cut boards. You know, you use a pilot. They call it a pilot piece or whatever, right? A jig. And yeah, in fact, I learned that right quick because that guy, you know, cut his fingers off. You know, so it was interesting. So I worked that job, and yeah, my buddy Albert got me a glazing job. He's a glazer by trade. It's when you install windows commercially. I do commercial windows. I install a Schuko system, German designed high-rise install. I specialize in Schuko systems, unitized paneling systems. It's a lot of gibberish maybe for most people, but yeah. And I started 18 years old. In Winnipeg, they don't have a trade program there. It's all journeyman. It's all grandfather time. So every year you can sign off your hours through the union. Once you sign those hours, you get a ticketed amount of hours. So 5 years later, I got my journeyman ticket. I was 22 years old, and I grandfathered it. I went and challenged the 5th year, and I got it. My foreman was my best friend, you know, and he taught me everything I needed to know about that trade. And so yeah, but the only other thing is that he liked cocaine, and so did I. So we spent a lot of money on cocaine. You know, I spent tons of money on cocaine. I had lots of money. I was making $28.82 an hour at 22 years old. I had so much money. I was making $4 or $5 grand a week take home. I was almost $8 grand every 2 weeks. I had so much money I didn't know what to do with. You know, I was giving my parents money. Just anyway. So yeah, I was yeah, so I did that for and then all of a sudden I met my girlfriend. She's the mother of my child. At 22 years old, I met her through my weed dealer. He actually introduced me to her, and I just seen her. She's we were on the riverbank in Winnipeg, and I seen her. I was like, she's a little. I was a young man. I like mature women of money that were a little more mature, you know. And she was like, I just seen her. She had a nice body, a nice smart-looking face. She's a redhead. For some reason, I had this thing about redheads at that point. I was just attracted to them. I thought they were crazy and they're wild, you know. Everyone said, you know, why redheads are crazy. You know, you don't want to try it once or twice, right? So I was hooked, right? And I met her, and she seen me. She was with this other guy. Fucking, it's funny because and she ended up breaking up with him. He was a pinhead at that point, you know. And now I'm like 20 years or 5 years later. Or 8 years later, I should say, I turned into one, you know. Like, it's kind of interesting how that works out, you know. Like, you know, she would have frowned upon that back then, and now I'm the same thing, right? But interesting enough, yeah, I met her, and first night we hung out. It was Halloween night. I went to a club with her, and that was almost the night I lost her too, because I was going in the washroom and doing lines and forgetting about her, and all of a sudden I come back out in the club, and she's talking to this really fucking tall, handsome dude, and I'm like, you know, like, fuck, I could lose her right here. Instead, I just, like, quietly just looked at him, like, yo, this is my girl, thank you, and I just grabbed her by the hand, and I took her outside, and I took her to the cab, and she said that was the moment I won her, you know. And yeah, she said if you didn't grab me there, I would have left with that guy, and you would have never seen me again. I would have never had my kid with her, you know. I have a beautiful son with her. He's 8 years old now. We were together 4.5 years, and that kind of just, like, starts the new story of my life, where I ended up all the way out here on the western side of Canada. But make a small story short, is I ended up taking a train with her. We had a house together. We sold the house. We took a train out west with 2 cats and my son. We ended up losing 1 cat on the way in Vernon, just outside of Vernon, BC, and. So yeah, and we were together 4 years. We moved from Vernon. We moved into the interior. BC. It was beautiful for about a summer, and then I got a job offer in Calgary for doing glazing. So I took that offer. So I have such a long story to tell you, but I'm gonna make it a little bit more quick here. You know what I mean? She's gonna be waiting here. So, but if you want, maybe you can come see me here again after, and we'll So I'm in BC, and me and my ex, you know, we dabbled in coke too before my son was born, and I was still like pretty addicted. And when I was back in Winnipeg, and we had a breakup for about right after my son was born. We had a breakup. It was about a 3-month breakup, and my son's just born, and I'm living at my dad's again, and finally she's saying, yeah, I'm gonna sell the house and I'm gonna move. I'm like, well, fuck, like, no, don't do that, you know, you have my kid. She's like, well, you have a choice. You either quit the drugs and you come with me. I'm selling the house and I'm moving out west. I said, okay. And
where out west did you guys move to?
We moved to Coldstream, BC, just outside of Vernon, so in Kelowna and around that area. We actually lived on a vineyard, an orchard, which was a vineyard orchard kind of thing. It was beautiful there. Yeah, and so I quit every drug, man. I quit coke, quit the weed. That's all I was doing at that point. And yeah, so we got there, and the guy that her friend was somebody back in her day, you know. Like, so my ex is a lot older than me. My ex is 46 years old, you know. So like, when we were together, she was 39, I was 22. So that age gap really made a hindrance on our relationship. Like, I was young, I was still didn't have all the knowledge I have now and the experience and the responsibility that she had, you know, and I lagged a lot in that for her. She felt I know that now, that I lacked in what she needed at that point, and it's quite a bit of the downfall for our relationship, you know, was the age difference. And yeah, and then this guy that her friend, she knew from back in Calgary when she was in Calgary growing up. She left home when she was young too, same thing, around my age, and just took off from Winnipeg and left everyone, and pretty much was out west her whole life until I met her. And it's funny, long story short, she did down too back in the day, from what I know. She told me after. I didn't know what down was about back then, you know, like the lifestyle. Now I know what that lifestyle is like.
Well, what's the
so
lifestyle
now
like?
Lifestyle is grimy, you know, like fucking like. I couldn't imagine her being in the same life that the down does. Like the world of down is like, it's nitty gritty. Like, women are taken advantage of. You're sick. You're desperate. Like, when you get dope sick, you'll do anything. You know, like you'll do what you have to do to survive. And I couldn't picture her being that girl. You know, and yeah, it's like hard to like realize that she lived another life before me. You know, that was hard on me. Like, and you know, she was sober at this time, but. What happened was her friend who fought with his woman all the time when we were there, and we couldn't have that in front of my son. They were arguing really bad. So we ended up moving right away. She's like, okay, we got to get out of here. We moved into a hotel in Vernon for about a week, and then all of a sudden we found this fucking rental out in Nakusp, BC, in the interior. Like, it's absolutely beautiful there. Like, there's a babbling brook, literally like a brook, like a creek running from the mountain coming right through our property. We had a really nice cottage, like, and a guest house with a sauna in that room. Like, it was really fancy. We only paid $1,600 a month for it every month. Like, it was balling, bro. Like, it was a freaking nice cottage, man. Like, it was fancy, bro. Mountains all around us. Like, you walk across the road, you're right into, like, they're called the Arrow Lakes. So it was like pristine green blue ocean water. It looked like it was so beautiful, man. Like, you had, like, you could go gold mining in the creek just outside your house, you know, like flakes of gold. It was like unbelievable. At night, the fucking the bugs and stuff glowed like a weird blue color at night, you know. You go out in the forest and it was like magical, you know. It was like literally like you see toadstools out there. It's just like another like totally different world. You like the interior rainforest and BC is totally different from the one on the island, which I'll tell you after I was there too. Totally different rainforests. There are two different climates, right? And in BC, the climate anywhere close to the lake, that's where all the tropical plants are, like big tropical leaves you wouldn't even believe exist in BC. It looks like the jungle, you know. And these slugs are like this big and have big freaking holes in them. And I didn't wonder why there's these holes in these slugs. Well, it's for them to breathe, right? And I thought they were like sick or something, like they had like a tumor and like this wrong with these. No, I figure out now that that's how they breathe. They breathe through that big hole, right? And those slugs glow blue at night to warn off predators and stuff. Most of the animals in the night do that, right? And major, like, you know, the Great Canadian woodpecker, This thing's like literally like this big off the ground, probably. Wingspan's probably bigger than my body. Like, it's massive, you know, like, and just flies right over my head in the forest. Like, it's unbelievable. Cougars jumping across the road. Like, it's just a beautiful place, right? I ended up getting a job. I always had work, you know, like when we were together. I always found work to help the family, support the family. We had over $250,000 cash together from the house. It was her house, it wasn't mine, but she sold the house. So we had a nest egg of money, right? And you know, the thing was is that she thought I was the one who's supposed to be responsible for the money and to manage it. At the same time, I thought she was. It's her money, right? So I was like very naive on understanding that relationship and how it was supposed to work. We spent a lot of money, you know, like, I mean, lots, like $100,000 pretty fast, you know, and that made a strain on our relationship 2 years down the road, right? Anyways, long story short, I was about to leave to go to Calgary. I had a job offer, and I worked at an organic farm in Nakusp, BC for a bit. Got a job offer in Calgary to be a glazer. So, week before we go, me and my ex have this terrible fight. I touch a mushroom on the ground, get sick as a dog, like almost die. I'm in the hospital. We had a fight. She fucking takes off with some random dude that we met. We bought a car off him, and I took the car back to Vernon to get the rest of our property, and lo and behold, the guy doesn't fill up my oil like he told me he was going to, right? So I burn all the fucking oil, all the way back from Vernon to Nakusp, a 3.5-hour drive there one way and then back, right? I didn't fill out the oil. I didn't know it wasn't full. Like, you know, and I'm running, going as fast as I can to get back, and I blow the fucking engine on the way back to Nakusp. Just right when I get into town, like, I blew the engine, right, rolled into his property and said there's something wrong with it. He's like, you blew the fucking engine. I'm like, well, why? Like, he's like, well, there's no oil in the fucking oil pan. I'm like, well, why the fuck is there no oil? You told me you're gonna fill it. He's like, oh, well, you know, he wouldn't take it ownership, because then he would have to pay me back for the vehicle. He didn't. So so I got sick, whatever. I'm in the hospital. I get up, I'm waking up, and all of a sudden I find out my girl is gone, like, with my son. They moved to Calgary without me. They took off, like, literally ditched and left me. And I find out from the doctors at the hospital that she's left with my son to Calgary already without me. And I'm like, luckily I had a freaking bank card and my ID with me, because if not, I would have been stranded in BC trying to get back to fucking Calgary for this job. I've never been to Calgary. I've never been to BC. I was on my own now, right? So I called my mom up and like, Mom, I need money to get a bus. So I get this bus ticket. I had to get away from Nakusp to get to Revelstoke, BC. From Revelstoke then to Calgary, right? I had to pay like $200. This guy wanted to drive me from Nakusp to Revelstoke, which was like not even half an hour away. Like, he's a prick, right? Like, just some honky guy wanted money, right? Sure enough, got that. Then my parents paid for the bus ticket. I had a great time, man. Just before that, these people gave me a bunch of mushrooms. So I kind of dabble here and there, like when I wasn't with her or whatever, but I did a bunch of mushrooms, and I'm on the bus, man, having a fucking grand old time on the bus, man, just partying. And I almost get kicked off the bus halfway through, right? And they're like, because buddy fucking throws a beer can on the ground in the middle of the bus and just spraying everybody in the middle of the night, bro. And they, okay, thank you. I appreciate you waiting. I really do. Okay, you will? Okay, all right. So then I moved, so I finally got away back to Calgary. So I used to have this issue with fucking stomach problems, man. Really bad, bro. Like, it was so bad, man. I ended up in the hospital all the time. Ended up actually later on, after me and my ex broke up, I had a perforated ulcer. It means it blows a hole in your stomach from just stress and an ulcer. Ulcer went from eudicillary, which means it's bleeding. It's about the size of a loony, and then it blew a hole in the stomach. And I was like, literally, I was in the fucking parking lot at the Stampeders, the Calgary Stampeders parking lot when this happened. I had to call the ambulance, and they picked me up. I almost died, man. Like, that's just from stress, you know? Like, and so, anyway, so I fucking got there, got the job, and she's in this apartment fucking in Calgary, right? And it's a rough apartment, like down in Dover. It's like not a very good neighborhood, right? And I'm like, holy fuck. You know, she took this apartment, and she's with my baby, and with her mother. Her mother's there, so her mom's a nurse, and she grew up wealthy. She had a good family, and she had a nest egg when she grew up. She had like inheritance and stuff. So I get there, and she's there. And she tells me this story, like, I shouldn't be saying this to you, but like, something happened to her. That guy touched her or something when I'm with my baby in her hands, and I'm like, yo, like, you shouldn't tell me that I'll fucking kill somebody who touches you like that, you know. And this fucking janitor or something, the maintenance man, touches her, like, you know, and she tries to tell me this, and I freak out, like, but she wouldn't let me do anything about it. And I'm like, well, you don't tell somebody this and then not let me do anything about it, like, you know, like, one day, man, I'm gonna find that guy. I shouldn't say that, but yo, like, he's gonna get it. And I know he works for Main Street Equity Corp. I know where he lives. I know where he works, and I know he still works there. I know which buildings he works for. And if he ever sees this video, man, I'm telling you, buddy, you're gonna fucking see me, you know, touch my kid and the mother of my child, my kids in your arms, you know, what the fuck's wrong with you? And breastfeeding at that, you know, that's what he did. You know, like this, because like she's vulnerable. She's there by my kid. She's not from there, you know. Like, and then this fucking creep, you know, and I'm not there. And it just like it killed me, you know. I wasn't there to protect her, and that really hurt, you know. And it ruined. I think it ruined our relationship for the most part, you know. At that point, our relationship was really rocky. It was always rocky. We always were having arguments, and she was quite abusive to me actually, and she'd hit me a lot and calm me down and tell me I wasn't good enough, I wasn't doing the right things, and just always yelling at me. And like, it got so bad. Anyway, so I got to Calgary. I got that job. I had to quit the job. I had stomach problems that were so bad where I had to go back to hospital. I had to quit that job. Finally, I got we moved into this apartment building downtown, and the guy seen me arguing with her again, and I ended up being stuck out in the hallway. And he's like maintenance man, or like the manager of the building, and he's like, yo, like, what the fuck's going on? And he's like, I'm like, oh, we're fighting. And she kicked me out. He's like, yeah, but you pay the rent. And I'm like, I know. And he ended up offering me a job as a maintenance technician. So I'm now doing maintenance in the building, and it pays my rent. So now it pays our rent, and now I'm in this building doing maintenance for the building. And you know, I still hadn't touched drugs. And one night, this lady asked me to move for her. She's a really beautiful girl, man, beautiful, man. And asked me to move her apartment from another apartment to another, from an apartment down to another apartment. I do that. She gives me $600 for this move, bro. I moved this whole house by myself, man, couches and all, down the fucking stairs. You know, like a little guy like me. I'm moving like full-size couches by myself. No one's helping me. I did all by myself. Her TV, everything, you may name it. I moved a whole apartment by myself in about 4 hours, you know. And she offers me lines of cocaine, and she tried to fucking make out with me, like, 'cause she's trying to like hug up on me, and she's smoking hot, bro, like smoking hot, man. Like, I'm like, no, like, I can't, you know, like, I have a woman and a kid, and I pushed her away. She's like, wow, like, you're a good man, you know, like, you got an opportunity and you didn't take it. She's really impressed, right? And I said, you know, it's just who I am, right? And I never cheat on my girl, ever cheat on her, not once, you know. And yeah, I fucking got, and then all of a sudden so I got a job as a real glazer. I got a wicked ass job. I'm doing the Manulife Tower downtown Calgary. It was a brand new build right across from the law offices. It's a big circle building right on the C-train platform. It's brand new. And I got the position to do lead installer. So with that position, Manulife offered me a contract through the union. Actually, my union rep fucking gave me the offer to do this job because he knows I'm really good at managing people and getting them to work together and get the job done quick. I've been known to do this. So that's like my expertise, is to like finish jobs quickly, get them done before or on time. And this job was behind, so they needed to get it done on time or early. So on time, $40,000 was a bonus. Early, $80,000 was what I was offered. So I took it, and I ended up the longest day I ever worked there was 21 hours straight. One day I worked on that job, and that was not just behind the desk, that was labor. We had to load a trailer full of the anchors. So there's these big freaking metal anchors that we use to like put up the frames. The frames go into these anchors in between the concrete on the concrete slabs. They go into these bolts that are sitting outside there, and they anchor the frame into the building. Well, you have to carry them all the way up the building and then down. So we had them all stacked on these freaking pallets, right? And and all the windows come in big pods, like they're big metal frames, and they're all singly pulled out from each other. They use a big crane inside the building where they bring it in off of a pallet. It's a motorized pallet jack, They bring these big pods, about 4 units are in a pod, and you have to disassemble the pod and then separate the windows and bring them off, take the metal off of them, and then put it onto wheelies, like little dollies, wooden dollies. So all these frames that are left over, you have to put back on trucks and send them back to the shop in Ontario. I worked for a company called CGI, Contract Glazers Incorporated. It's like one of the largest firms in Canada for glazing, and yeah, fucking man, like, and the pallets kept breaking, and we had like 1,000 pounds of fucking metal breaking through these pallets, and we're fucking digging these pallets out, like metal, like throwing it into the trailer. Like, it's just ridiculous, right? It took us 21 hours to fill this trailer in the end. Like, it was ridiculous. I made $7,000 that week just off that one day. When total like hours throughout that week, I was $7,000 extra for that one day, just to do that one day of job. 21 hours, made $7,000. You know, like, I was making crazy money. And this is the downfall of my life, was when me and my ex, we were fighting a lot at this time, and I finally just couldn't do it. I broke up with her. I said, she says, you know, we should maybe separate, and you should move in by yourself. And I thought at that point, you know, it's probably not a good idea. I thought, no, like, I do this now, I'm gonna, like, I like drugs too much, you know, I'm young, and like, she doesn't realize you let your man, like, go off the leash, like, he's gonna, oh, and I knew that, and fuck, I wish we never broke up, because if we didn't break up, I'd still be with her, you know, I'd still have my son in my life, and I wouldn't, you know, at the same time, I have a daughter because of that, and that's good, you know, I haven't met her, but I will soon. But yeah, so we broke up, and then we got into a bad fight one day, day of Christmas, actually. It was really sad. I went skiing Christmas Day, or the day before Christmas, New Year's Eve. I got to go with the friends at I lived in a wicked house. It's called an intentional community, and in Calgary, it's kind of like a hippie community, but it's they have strict rules that you have to live by the household, and like, what they were trying to do was implement a community within one house, and then build another one, and then make a community out of it. And it's called an intentional community. And I was part of this. That's where I got this. That's how we broke up, and I moved into this house with this intentional community. Very nice people. The guy who ran the house was actually, he ran the head engineering department for SATE, power engineering course. He was the head teacher for that, and he was the owner of the house. His name was Bob, what was his name? Anyways, he was a really nice man, and everyone in that house were intelligent people. Like, you know, like, they were all in university or had been in university, had great jobs. You know, one guy was a paramedic, the other guy was a power engineer, worked on plants in Fort McMurray. He was making $1 million a year. Like, they're rich people that I was living with. You know, they all lived in this house, and I'm just this lone freaking glazer that troubled. You know, I just broke up with my ex. You know, I'm struggling. You know, and I'm now back in the cocaine. You know, we broke up, and I couldn't cope with it, and I'm back in the cocaine, whatever. I've been partying quite a bit. I'm going to the club with my friends, and you know, socializing with people at work, after work, going to parties and stuff. You know, living my youth like I should. You know, like, I wasn't with her right now. I wasn't with the kid. But when it came to my kid, I was sober at the house with her. So the day of Christmas came, I fell going snowboarding so bad I couldn't even get out of bed. But she calls me, she's like, "Do you want to be here for Christmas?" I'm like, "Yeah, I bought gifts, I'll be there." She said, "Okay." And I realized how sore I was, man. I was so fucking sore, bro. I went to Lake Louise, never been snowboarding Lake Louise. And you go to Lake Louise, you don't just get to stop off halfway down the mountain. You get all the way to the top of the mountain, and then you go from there. Like, you don't, like, I didn't realize that. I thought you go to halfway down the mountain, start there, you know? No, man, you go right to the top. Like, Winnipeg does not have fucking mountains to snowboard on. Like, straight down, you do a little bit, turn, you're good, you know? Like, no, this is real snowboarding, and I didn't know how to clearly I didn't know how to snowboard yet, because I hurt myself really bad, and I didn't have a snowboard my size. My friend borrowed me his snowboard. It wasn't the right size, so I fucking failed hard. And so I took I took a painkiller and sleeping pills that night. When I caught over to her house just to get some sleep, and my son was sick that day, and he had a congestion or something. And so the first night she told me to stay up all night with him just to keep an eye on him. And then after that, she'd let me sleep during the day, and then she would do the same, watch him the next night. So sure enough, I stayed up all night, watched him. I took him to the shower once in a while in the middle of the night, and steamed him in the shower, try to get that congestion out. And so I did that, and then the next day she was supposed to, and she didn't want to do it. And she's like, no, I'm not fucking, you know, I'm laying down in bed. And next morning comes, and I'd been uptown 2 nights straight. Like, you know, like it was just it was the day of Christmas, so it was the 24th and 26th, 25th morning. So 23rd night was there, 24th night, and then that morning, and she asked me to do the same thing, bring him to the shower that morning. And I'm like, no, he's sleeping, you know, like, why would we do that? She freaks out, she grabs me by the hair, fucking hits me, he's pulling my hair, calling me names. I'm like, fine, fuck, I get up, I go to the shower, I turn the shower on, come back, and I'm so exhausted, right? So I go back to sleep, and sure enough, she wakes up again, and fucking freaks out on me, slams me, and he's sleeping at this point. So I'm getting up, and she's kicking me, so I was like, fuck, I finally had enough, and I kind of lightly punch her in the legs, you know, like, stop fucking hitting me. I punch her in the legs, and I go to work. Oh yeah, so it was Christmas, day after Christmas at this point, so I had work on the 26th, right? Like, for some reason, we were working that day. And I go to work, and sure enough, they come and arrest me at work for domestic. I got charged for domestic assault, and from that point on, you get an EPO, emergency protection order, so that lasts a year. She has to like either shut that down after a while or not, or she can keep it. So now I'm charged with this domestic assault. I can't see her, I can't see my kid, and now I'm falling apart. I'm hitting the cocaine bad, and I finally get to court for that. About 3 months later, I paid for a university lawyer. They call student legal assistant, only $50, and she got me a conditional discharge, which means conditional discharge means after 3 years, if you finish the probation, and you do everything they ask, they erase your record. That's how it works. But you have to plead guilty. So I did plead guilty. Finally, the EPO goes off, and I get to start seeing her again. But I'm falling apart totally at this point. I don't have a place to live anymore. My EI's, I'm no longer working. The job was done. I blew all my money. I had that car. I still had the car, luckily, and I had bought a Daytona 595 motorcycle, crotch truck, right? I didn't even have a license for it. I just bought it. I'm like, look, you know, I think I'm gonna drive this damn thing, you know. So I learned how to drive it at my friend's outside the city. He owns a pet care company called Rainbow Pet Care, and he likes to smoke weed and shit. And those are people I party with. These older guys, man. I party with like guys my 40 years old. Well, I don't party with kids, you know, my age. I usually always hang out with older people. And yeah, so we're broken up in that shit. And then I finally decided, I got an offer to go to Victoria, BC for work. So I said to her, I'm moving, I'm getting out of here, I can't do this anymore, like, we're not together, I'm not doing good here. I ended up in treatment in Calgary for a bit, did the treatment center, still wasn't doing good, so I took off. I went to Victoria, BC, and that's where my homelessness started. I got the job offer there. They offered me the job, they gave me a place they gave me the job, they brought me there, paid for my ticket. And then they said they had a place for me, but they didn't. They didn't actually have a room for me to, like, a rental. They said they had a rental, and they never did. So now I have fucking limited amount of money, and I'm on EI, and I only had like $600 to work with. So now I'm going to work. 2 weeks in, I go for a hike with these guys, and I ended up falling and hurting my back really bad. I fell down a ravine really bad, and these are amazing people I actually met there. They were part of this company called Univera. Univera does it's like an energy rejuvenation drink. It's kind of like a spider scheme or a pyramid scheme kind of thing, but they were doing good. They were making big bucks. This one lady was a millionaire, and she brought me. I ended up going on a retreat with them on Bowen Island, off the inland, just outside of Vancouver on an island, and for a retreat for a weekend, just to like learn about Univera. Like, this lady owned the retreat, she worked for Univera, and so I ended up losing my job, and the union didn't fucking give me any work after that, because the lady that hired me, she retired that same week I got there. So this new guy didn't like me or something, and he wouldn't give me any other jobs. Now I have no money, no job. Luckily I kept my EI. Still, I didn't, instead of canceling it while I got my job, I kept it. So now I'm still on probation from Calgary as well. Like, I have a probation officer, and I had to report to a new one there, right? And I'm falling apart really fast, like, and I ended up on the streets there. And I was explained that if you're on the streets here, you got 3 options. You can either starve, snap out of it, or do what I do. and what it was to learn how to sell dope, smoke dope, and fall asleep on down. So you smoke pint, you sell pint, and you sell down, and when you're ready to go to sleep, you smoke a little bit of down to fall asleep. And that's how I started on the streets of Victoria. I just ended up like quickly right away. I was like on the streets of Pandora, fucking going on. Like I was so used to like being on the streets anyways, like around the streets and stuff. So I right away was attracted to. Right away, it was easy for me to get into that scene. Plus, I had nowhere to go and I had no job. So some guy took me in under his wing and he's like explained to me this is how it goes, and he brought me around, showed me how to sell, hooked me up a little bit of dope to sell, and so I started selling dope on Pandora with fucking some serious guys like XIB members and all sorts of people. And there's like one spot, it's called Firefly Alley. So you look down the lane, and first part is called Firefly Alley, and it's all crackheads, and all they do is smoke crack, and you can see little lighters. That's why I call it Firefly Alley. After that, it's the pinters, so they call it I forget what it's called, like flail lane or something like that, and people are just flailing out, and that's a good spot to go and find stuff on the ground because people drop everything. So you'll go, so it's easy to make money there. Like people drop things on the ground and you can pick things up, and like most of my time was spent looking on the ground, literally. Yeah.
What was some of the craziest things you've seen here and there? So
craziest thing I seen in Victoria, BC was some girl, that this trap house girl. She was like, she had this trap house, and she was a wild one. She'd walk around outside with no shirt on, topless, in front of everybody on the middle of the street, broad daylight, and she ran this house, this flail house, and she'd be topless outside, and like the garbage truck people would show up, and she's just topless walking around like it's no big deal. And that's like one of the craziest things I've seen there. There's a lot of crime that I witnessed too. Like some guys would show up on crotch rockets, randomly fly into the yard, full speed on the crotch rocket. They would take it in the garage, and all of a sudden it'd be spray painted brand new and walk out like it wasn't the same whip, you know, like stuff like that. So Edmonton, I got hacked. I have other stories after that when I came back here. I ended up getting hacked with a machete in Bonnyville. Got 53 stitches in the back of my head. I was tortured in Lloydminster. I was held in a hotel room for a day and a night and tortured for no reason because some chick fucking let people into the house, into the hotel room when the guy said not to. He got his stuff stolen. We were the only two in there. They held us there for a day or two, and it's one of the worst things that happened to me. Yeah, stuff like that, man. I got when I was 16 years old, I got beaten so bad in Winnipeg. I ended up in a coma in the hospital for about a week, I think it was. I woke up in the hospital beaten so bad for no reason. Just was in the wrong house and was chilling with the wrong guys, and they thought I was with a random gang when I wasn't even in a gang, and they just took me up the side street and beat the living crap out of me until I could barely walk. And I ended up on the river bend in Winnipeg, waking up, hiding there on the edge of the river. And I woke up and I realized I needed to go somewhere. It was like I was gonna die. I had blood in my mouth, and that's probably one of the crazier ones from when I was growing up. But yeah, I got lots of stories. I could tell you more, but yeah, I hear you.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.